All right, so today we are going to be talking about point of view. And to introduce what point of view is, I'm going to show this vocabulary video.
Each story has a narrator, and every narrator has a different point of view. Which point of view is yours? Let's go! Everybody wants to know my point of view. First person is me, second person is you, third person is he, third person is she. Everybody wants to know my POV. Everybody wants to know my point of view. First person is me, second person is you, third person is he, third person is she. Everybody wants to know my POV. Hey yo, knock knock, who's there? Narrator, who? Narrator, who want to tell the story from a point of view. Every story's written in a certain voice. When you're writing, you need to make a choice. First, second, or third person, POV. The first person is all about me, or we, like we climbed the tree. I closed my eyes and I felt the breeze. I might be unreliable if I'll tell the truth. Now let's switch the point of view to you. In the second person, you're in a taxi. You're wondering how you got there exactly. The third person is he or she. He walked down the street and he saw the queen. She was dressed like it wasn't a thing. That's the third person, take it from him. Third person narration could be objective, omniscient, or from a limited perspective. In a narrator seeing everyone's thoughts, narrating omnisciently like a boss. Everybody wants to know my point of view. First person is me, second person is you, third person is he, third person is she. Everybody wants to know my POV. Everybody wants to know my point of view. First person is me, second person is you, third person is he, third person is she. Everybody wants to know my POV. All right now, check your notes. Tell me which POV is in each quote. I was born with water on the brain. That's first person. He looked up into Father Wolf's face and laughed. That's third person. We didn't always live on Mango Street. That's third person. So he closed the eyes and lay quite still. That's third person. Your feet are now stuck in green slime. That's second person. In the hole in the ground there lived a hobbit. That's third person. It made me so sick I almost fell out of the tree. That's first person. You're thinking, this wasn't the way it was supposed to go. That's second person. My name is Katniss Everdeen. I'm 17 years old. That's first person. Everybody wants to know my point of view. First person is me, second person is you, third person is he, third person is she. Everybody wants to know my POV. Everybody wants to know my point of view. First person is me, second person is you, third person is he, third person is she. Everybody wants to know my POV.
Okay, so from that video, we learned that point of view can actually, it is depending on how the story is written, so the words that are being used. Point of view is the way the events of a story occur according to the character that is telling it. So, depending on the characters, they may have a different point of view. Just like if something were to happen at school, you might have a different point of view of that than your friend or your teacher. So everybody can have a different point of view, and so can the characters. So, who is telling the story? You need to look for clues in order to figure out who is telling the story. Now, first person narration is what we just heard about in the video, and it's told by one character in the story. So that's when the narrator can relate personal views. And some keywords to know is words like I, me, we, and us. And you guys are actually going to be working on writing a personal narrative this week during writing. So it kind of goes along with point of view, because the point of view of your writing piece is going to be written from your point of view. You'll be using words like I, we, me, and us. Third person narration is told by a narrator that's outside of the story. So that would mean you use words like he or she, they, and them. So that's when the narrator of the story and you're reading, it's not necessarily told by that person. It's somebody that's not in the story telling it. Now, there are two types of third person. Third person limited, and that is when the narrator knows the thoughts and the feelings of one character. So not all of them, just one character. That's limited. But sometimes when you're reading, you notice that the narrator knows the thoughts and feelings of all characters, and that's third person omniscient. Third person limited, think about it, you're limited. So you only know one character's feelings. For third person omniscient, you know all of them. So I know you might have thought, point of view, that kind of sounds like perspective. Well, point of view, the way a story is told or the view that it's told in, is also like a perspective or an attitude of the author. So when you read stories, you might be able to kind of pick up the feeling that the author is feeling as you're reading it and reading his words. It's the way the author feels about someone or something. The author's point of view may affect the overall tone of the writing. Take note of what the author says and how the author says it. So it's really important to kind of look at all the characters in the story and try to understand what their point of view is. Now, you guys are going to be listening now to The Three Little Pigs. And as you're listening to this story, I want you to, I know some of you guys have probably heard this story before, but I want you to specifically think, what would the perspective be of these pigs? What's their point of view? What's the perspective or the point of view of the wolf? What about Little Red Riding Hood? So think about that as you're listening to this today, and then tomorrow we're going to be talking even more about this specifically.
At the time, they left 3 piglets with their mother in a small house. It was time for them to leave their home and learn to live on their own. Their mother called the 3 piglets next to her. My dear children, the time has come for you to go out into the world. Go and start your new lives. But don't ever forget, whatever you do in this world, do the best you can. This is the only and the best way to stay alive. A little sad with a bit of excitement, the 3 little piglets said their goodbyes to their mummy and were on their way. After a while, they found some piece of land where they could build their own home. The youngest piglet was determined to build his home with straw. He thought this was the easiest and the fastest way to build a home. Heaps of time to play. The youngest of them all finished his house in one day. He yelled out to the other piglets, "Hey you guys, I'm already finished!" The eldest piglet had a look at the house.
Okay, but this house doesn't look steady at all. How will we protect ourselves from the wolf?
The youngest piglet didn't take any notice of his brother.
Don't worry, nothing will happen.
Okay, don't say I didn't warn you.
The middle piglet decided to make his house out of wood. From the branches he had collected in the woods, he decided to build a little cubby house. His house took exactly 3 days to finish. This house was a bit more steady than the one with straw. The eldest piglet walked over towards him.
My dear brother, you've done a great job, but this doesn't look safe at all. Is this house going to protect us from the wolf?
The middle piglet answered,
Don't worry, this house is very safe.
Okay, don't say I didn't warn you.
While the 2 little piglets were having a great time time in their newly built homes, the eldest of them all was constantly working because he was building a home from bricks and rocks. The other piglets thought that his effort was useless. All they did was play around and kill time.
Why would you bother with this when you can quickly finish like we have? How scared is he?
The eldest piglet didn't bother listening to them. He worked for 1 whole week and managed to finish his house made out of bricks and rocks. A day later, a hungry wolf arrived near their home. He first stood in front of the house made of straw. The little piglet was resting in his house made of straw. The wolf knocked on the door.
Open the door and let me in. If you don't, I'll huff and puff and blow your house in.
You can't do anything to me. My house is steady enough.
And so the wolf huffed and puffed, and he blew his house in. But with great effort, the little piglet managed to get away. And off he ran over to his brother's house made from tree branches. He knocked on the door, and when the little piglet opened the door, the little piglet threw himself inside the house.
Hey, close the door. The wolf can come in here.
Don't worry, he can't do anything to us in this house.
After a while, the wolf came by the second piglet's wooden house and yelled inside.
Open the door and let me in. If you don't, I'll huff and puff and blow your house in.
You can't blow my house in.
And so the wolf huffed and puffed, and he blew his house in and brought it down. Both piglets ran to the third piglet's house and barely got away from the wolf.
Brother, the wolf is going this way. What are we going to do?
The oldest piglet answered, very sure of himself.
Don't worry. The wolf cannot come in this house.
A little later, the starving wolf came by the third piglet's house of bricks and stone and yelled to the 3 piglets.
Open the door and let me in. If you don't, I'll huff and puff and blow your house in.
Don't you even try, you bad wolf. You cannot come in this house.
The wolf got very angry. He huffed and puffed, but nothing happened. He could not bring his house down. He tried and tried, but he couldn't move one single brick. Finally, being exhausted, the wolf decided to try another way to go in. He saw the chimney up on the roof and started to climb. Realizing that the wolf was going to climb up on the roof and come down the chimney, the piglet quickly lit up the fireplace right under the chimney and put a big bucket of water on the wood. The wolf barely climbed up the chimney and threw himself in and went straight into the boiling bucket.
Oh, help! Help! I'm burning! Save me!
Finally, being free from the wolf, the piglets hugged each other with joy. The 3 piglets went to their mother's house the next day to tell her all that had happened. The youngest one came next to his mother.
You were right, Mummy. Whatever we did in this world, we have done it to our best. If you really work for something, it will be a success.
From that day on, the 2 piglets were never lazy. They worked hard like their big brother and lived a happy and safe life.
Okay, so tomorrow we are going to actually talk more about the perspectives of the 3 little pigs. And
There
we're
was a son in
actually,
the room who told
oops,
each other tales of what happened in
one
the
second.
forest.
And then we are actually going to listen to another story, and it's going to be a different perspective. And we're going to kind of talk about why the perspectives are different.